I'm Jade Cooper. I work at the Attwater Prairie National Wildlife Refuge. I appreciate you all inviting me out here tonight to talk to you about living dinosaurs on the prairie. So before we jump into that topic, I want to properly introduce myself. Like I said, hi, I'm Jade. In 2001, a nerd was born. That nerd being me. That self-imposed ecology. And then I wanted to explore the world and open my eyes to what it means to work in conservation. So I got an internship through AmeriCorps, stationed at a National Wildlife Refuge on Kauai. And that is where I fell in love with birds. I did not really know much about birds before Kauai. I just kind of thought they were all like pigeons. I don't know. I grew up in a concrete jungle, so like the only birds I would see were grackles and pigeons, and they just kind of, I don't know. They didn't really do it for me. But it wasn't until I had the opportunity to work and to see them every day, day in, day out, on Kauai.
You got to chat on the screen. Oh.
Technical difficulties. We back online? Okay. Anyways, was not a bird girl pre-Kauai. I am now a bird girl. And that passion that I found in birds, I then went off to get this position that I'm in now as a wildlife refuge specialist. And that was mostly because of my amazing manager on Kauai that then moved to Attwater. So we have a saying, it's sometimes more about who you know than what you know. So I really look forward to paying that kindness that she gave me off later on in my career. But when I was on Kauai, I really had an epiphany about birds. That being that they are so closely connected to dinosaurs. One of my special interests, and then now I have this other special interest in birds. And so that is what I want to talk to you guys tonight. Sorry, I'm supposed to use this thing. When you think of birds, what comes to mind? Is it perhaps the Tyrannosaurus Rex? Perhaps Velociraptor? These depictions, especially the ones from Jurassic Park are probably going to bring up a lot of feelings of nostalgia. I know they do for me. But your first thought is probably not to think of these dinosaurs as birds. But it might surprise you to learn that birds are, in fact, dinosaurs. To be more specific, they come from a particular lineage of theropod dinosaurs known as the Maniraptorians. Maniraptorians such as Velociraptor and Archaeopteryx, we can see both of those right here and here. They represent the transition to a more bird-like form, having elongated forearms with a muscle called a propagadium that connects the shoulder to the wrist. And the development of this muscle would continue to evolve in conjunction with hollow bones and flight feathers. And that would allow dinosaurs to eventually fly and become what we now know as modern birds. And so now that we've established birds are Maniraptorian theropod dinosaurs, we're going to zoom out and we're going to look at what makes a dinosaur a dinosaur. First, a good thing to point out, as you can see, I've put some definitions at the bottom. A theropod is a dinosaur that have lightweight or hollow bones, a bipedal posture, and smaller forearms. And then Maniraptorian dinosaurs are also theropods. They just are, they had longer forearms, they had 3-fingered hands, they could grasp things with their arm or with their fingers, and they had a bird-hipped pelvic girdle. And that's going to make more sense when I get into that. So now we're going to get into the weeds. And this is where I'm going to throw a lot of information out at you. I'm going to nerd out quite a bit. And I was thinking about giving you guys a pop quiz and making you take notes. And but I'm feeling nice today. So as we travel back in time through the evolutionary history of reptiles and dinosaurs and birds, the big takeaway I want you to hold, the big takeaway I want you to hold on to, oops, no thank you, is this. The features that make a dinosaur are also the same features that make a bird a bird. You guys ready to time travel with me?
Yeah.
Let's go. So dinosaurs belong to the clade Dinosauria, which sits inside a larger reptile family known as the archosaurs. So if you look at this depiction right here, at this point, some 300 million years ago, this marks the end of the Permian, also known as the extinction event that then transitions from Permian to Triassic. It's called the Great Dying, and we'll get into that in a second. But at some point, mammals, lizards, crocodiles, all of these animals represented on this slide, all had a common ancestor. And then they started to branch off from each other. And from there, birds and crocodilians kind of become their own. They're starting to kind of figure out what they are, but they haven't quite gotten there yet. Today, the only archosaurs that are still alive are the birds and crocodilians. And this group also includes pterosaurs, all non-avian dinosaurs, which are not dinosaurs. We will get into why. So the archosaurs, they rose to dominance after the world's biggest mass extinction, even bigger than the dinosaur extinction, wiped out about 90% of all of the life on Earth. And that's what I was telling you guys about the Great Dying. That's why it's gotten the name, is it was so catastrophic. When this happened, there was a lot of volcanic activity. It kicked up all of this soot in the air, made the Earth very dark, and, released a bunch of carbon dioxide. And so because of all these species dying off, it left many niches open. And many of the insects that died during this time, which grew to like horrendously large sizes, they kept the reptile-like species in check because they were predating on them. But with most of them gone due to the lack of oxygen, which really allowed them to have such a large body size, the robustness of the archosaurs, the ability to adapt, made it so they could step up to the ecological plate, and they hit a grand slam after the Great Dying. So a major reason for their success was their anatomy. They developed a more upright posture compared to like the sprawling stance of a lot of reptiles. Lizards, like they keep their body out like this. They had lightweight skulls full of openings for strong muscle attachments and air sacs. So they were very light, agile. Think of the large skull of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I mean, that thing was massive. It had a big old head. But because of those facial openings and its lightweight bones, it didn't just topple right over. And so then the Archosaur lineage splits into two branches, the Pseudosuchians, which leads to modern crocodilians, and the Avimetasaurulians, which lead to the dinosaurs and non-avian dinosaurs, such as pterosaurs. Remember, they are not dinosaurs. They are not dinosaurs. And then also birds. Pterosaurs, although they were super impressive flyers, they had a different strategy for flight. If you think about like the difference between a bird flying and a bat flying, they both achieve flight, but they got there in two separate ways. So with pterosaurs, they had a really long fourth finger that they would literally like be standing on when they would walk. And they're compared to that of birds, where they use hollow bones and feathers and air sacs to keep them airborne. They both reached the same conclusion. Okay, we need to fly, but they got there two different ways. We call that convergent evolution. And then, terrestrially speaking, the dinosaurs they ruled much of the landscape. Dinosaurs are defined by a perforated hip socket, which means a hole in the hip socket that the leg joints connect to. And that allows for them to have an upright limb under the body stance, something that we will see is also present in birds. They had those distinct openings in the skull and strong jaw muscles. They had inner ears and ankle structures that were completely different than a lot of reptiles at the time. So dinosaurs first appear in the fossil record about 234 million years ago. And the transition from dinosaur adjacent animals to true dinosaurs happened very quickly. When it comes to how they grew and how they metabolized, they grew super fast, a lot faster than most modern reptiles, where they grow slowly over the course of their life. Dinosaurs, they got big very quickly. Within like 10 to 20 years, you had a full-grown Tyrannosaurus Rex. And part of the reason why they did so well was, it's still kind of debated, but they were most likely warm-blooded, like birds are today. They had the ability to regulate their temperature. And so with all that being said, like birds share a lot of these same characteristics as dinosaurs. Like structurally speaking, a chicken shares the same hip socket type, the same skull openings, and the same ankle setup as a velociraptor would have. So by every scientific measure, birds are living dinosaurs, not just related to, but they are dinosaurs. So here are some visual representations of those anatomical and skeletal structure similarities. So in the top left, we can see this gradual shift in the pelvic girdle. So the interesting thing is with, there's within the dinosaur clade, it gets broken down even further. You have Stegosaurus type dinosaurs, you have sauropods like Brachiosaurus, and then you have theropods such as their carnivorous bipedal animals we think of when we think of Tyrannosaurus Rex or Velociraptor. And interestingly, the Stegosaurus and the Triceratops type dinosaurs, they were classified by their bird-hipped pelvic girdle. And that actually is interesting because they are not very closely related to birds at all. The pelvic structure from theropods went like this, and then it started to go back to this, if that makes sense. And then in the center, we can see like this gradual shift in the forearm and the wrist, and that transition to the fingers fusing together to create a wing. And then top right, we can see, a little bit more broad view of their structural similarities. And then at the very bottom, in Tyrannosaurus Rex, they were already presenting a wishbone, and modern day birds have wishbones. So that just kind of goes to show like how far back that birds are related to, dinosaurs that were around 65 plus million years ago. But why do we have chickens and we don't have Tyrannosaurus Rex anymore? It's kind of, they're not as epic looking as their giant relatives, but they had a very particular dinosaurs that eventually now we know as birds had a very particular strategy when surviving the late Cretaceous extinction event that most people know by the giant meteor strike about 65 million years ago. So prior to even the meteor striking, there was already some environmental changes that were taking place that was making it harder for large fauna such as sauropods and Tyrannosaurus Rex to survive. So the smaller dinosaurs like Velociraptor and then Archaeopteryx and so on and so forth, they were a lot smaller. So when you have a smaller body size, it's a lot less energy you need to keep up to survive. You're able to hide easier. Some of these species of dinosaurs had developed flight, or they could glide, and they were a lot less picky about what they were eating. But that extinction event, pretty much nothing over 25 pounds survived, which is kind of crazy to think about. And slowly birds started to develop beaks instead of mouths with teeth. And they were very smart. I mean, they packed up together, they hunted together, they nurtured their young. And these are all things that we see in birds today. And we have fossil evidence of dinosaurs doing the same thing that we can see birds doing. because of all these adaptations, these small survivors became the birds we now know today. And nowadays you can find birds in all shapes, sizes, colors, and you can find them pretty much everywhere in the world. And they have really special features that help them live in places other animals can't. And I think birds out of most species on planet Earth are the most crazy looking. Like the royal flycatcher with, the male's crazy head crest, like, that is something that's so specific to birds, and it's just so cool. And one of the coolest, most fascinating birds we have right here in the Gulf Coast of Texas. Enter the Attwater's prairie chicken, the living dinosaur that inhabits the remaining 1% of the Gulf Coast prairie. And this is truly one of the most endangered birds in North America. And they are actively trying not to meet the same fate as their T-Rex cousins. Our most current population estimate that we did, I believe, is about 358. That's our total from the refuge combined with the Goliad Prairie's total, which is almost 100 more than last year. Yeah. So whether that's due to us being able to count the birds better, we had a better year weather-wise, we could visually see them better, or there really are just more birds, it might be a mix of both. But slowly they're making a comeback, but they need a lot of help. But despite the prairie chicken's unfortunate name, it is not a barnyard chicken. The Attwater's prairie chicken is actually a type of grouse with a very dramatic courtship display that I would like to play for you right now.
Finally, one brave soul took a look. The others seemed to cheer him on. It won't be long now, so we set up a camera outside to catch the big moment when it happens. After all day anticipating their departure, it was clear once dusk crawled in that today wasn't going to be the day. Will it be their last night? The next morning, things were going along as they typically do. Some activity at times, but nothing amazing. One nestling entertained itself by pecking.
How do I get back to the... Sorry, guys, I'm technological. Sorry, I forgot about that. Thank you. So they have a very elaborate courtship display, and they do this display on a dance floor, essentially. It's an open area that was either recently burned or heavily grazed that they use to be visible to females. Our scientific name for their dance floor is called a lek. And this is where they will boom and they'll do their tip-tap dance, spin around in a circle or what have you to attract the ladybirds. They're very specialized to this coastal prairie environment. They need a large expanse of healthy prairie with the right mix of grass, forbs, and open areas for nesting and foraging and raising their chicks. And because most of their habitat has been almost entirely lost or altered due to agriculture, people moving in, we move out the birds. The Attwater's prairie chicken is really only alive today because of active management. So how are they managed for? You might be asking. For a bird that has an exceptionally short lifespan, and of like 2 years or less and a very low survival rate, they're very Goldilocks when it comes to what they need. So at our refuge, the Attwater Prairie Chicken National Wildlife Refuge, we use a combination of prescribed burning, rotational cattle grazing, woody plant removal, which shout out to Bianca because she does a lot of that. And predator control to keep our prairie divas happy. A long-standing captive breeding program and release program that was established in the late 90s supplements the wild population that we have each year. These birds that we release, we closely monitor them through a few different ways. So some of our birds, when we pick them up from the captive breeding facilities, we will put what we call VHF collars on them. It transmits a radio frequency that we can audibly hear by connecting it to a receiver, and that's attached to an antenna. So you can see right here, this is one of our tracking trucks. And so sad, this was Michael, our all-star intern that did a lot of our tracking, and we are very sad because he ditched us. No, I'm just kidding. He extended his time with us as many times as he could. He's on to better things now, but he shall return. So we track the birds that have radio collars on them via this truck or handheld antennas called Yagis. And that informs us of where they are when we are actively listening for a particular frequency. It's very helpful for finding nesting females. If we can hear the same female in the same spot day after day, we are pretty sure she probably has a nest. And we also have GPS rump packs on some of our birds. So they sit right here, they kind of go over the legs. And those are really nice because that does transmit a live signal. What is it, every 3 days? Something like that. But those are expensive and they are quite a bit harder to install on the birds, and we can't do it when they're chicks. So there's advantages and disadvantages to both tracking techniques. When we find a nest and the hen has laid her clutch, we go out and we measure the eggs and we plug all the information into a spreadsheet that calculates when the projected hatch date will be. So, which is helpful for us to know because we put a predator deterrent fence around her nest, and we have to know when those eggs might hatch so that we can take it down and the chicks and the hen can run off and, find food and live their life. Here's one of our fire guys lighting this pasture on fire. Oh goodness. Here's me and Kyle, one of the program leads at the NASA facility where we have the Houston Zoo birds raised in captivity. I'm putting a radio collar on him. And then here's a mama cow and her baby cow. I always have to restrain the urge to pet the babies. But you know what? While it might seem like they have a grim outlook, since we've built a volunteer program, and I have to give a shout out to Jean. I know she doesn't like the spotlight, but I have to give it to you because you've helped me immensely build this volunteer program from the ground up. You deserve the praise. Because I did not know what I was doing. I first took on this challenge, and Gina has been immensely helpful in helping me build this program. And because of you guys, we are able to accomplish so much. Like this picture on the left, we were building acclimation pens, where we hold the birds, kind of give them a soft launch pad. We don't just throw them out in the prairie after they've spent the majority of their life, in captivity. We like to, give them a little bit of a transitionary period between captivity and being wild. So our volunteers in this picture, most of you guys are here. So thank you. You know what you did. You helped us cut down the time that it took to build these pens, or, even just straighten them out. So, with our volunteers, I think, we're going to rely on you guys a lot more, because we're constantly dealing with a lack of funding, lack of people. You guys may know that we have been through hell the past year and a half with the administration change, regardless of which aisle you stand on. It has been rough for us. So with y'all's help, we have been able to not feel the weight of losing our interns quite as much. I still cry about it sometimes, but you guys have really helped us with these big projects that we have, and I just can't thank you enough for that. So remember, next time you see a bird, you are looking into a window into the past, and you are looking at a dinosaur. And I will leave you with that thought. Thank you. Oh, if you have questions, please ask me.
Who are all the people in that picture?
Oh, I should explain. Okay, so the folks with the polos on, unfortunately, most of them, well, two of them have retired since. Where's my mouse? This is Amanda. She was our assistant director of our region. And then I'm blanking on her. Amy.
Oh,
Amy. Yes, that's right. She was the director, I think. Yeah. And then we have Jen in the cute white glasses. She is our, she like oversees our zone. She's like our Texas Refuge manager. And then we have Brooke. Oh gosh. No. How do I go back? Bert, help me. I'm phoning a friend. Was it really that easy?
No, it's really hard.
Gosh, I need to go back to college. Y'all, I don't know. They give me a degree. I don't know why. Okay, so this is Brookie. There's our boss lady. Then Ben behind her, that was our intern. He was only there for a few months when me and Bianca got brought on, but we love all our interns, like they're still with us, and we still talk about them. We all still keep connected on WhatsApp. And then Lavaskia right here, this is another one of our invasive species intern. Then Michael, Billy and Richard, our two maintenance guys. And there's Bianca, and she's right here. And then that's me. And then we have our other Michael. Yeah, so there's part of our regional team and our team at Attwater. Yes. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. Yeah, so April 11th and 12th, we're doing our annual Booming and Blooming Festival. The birds are going to be booming and the flowers are going to be a blooming. So come out to that if you would like to have the chance to see the prairie chickens booming in the field. We have a viewing platform that we're going to set up next to one of our recently burned units, and you can really see the birds and hear them pretty well. At least that's the hope. Weather, it's very weather dependent, and unfortunately, we have such a tight budget. I really can't pay the prairie chickens, that much to stage them. But then mealworms might work. Mealworms, yeah, they might respond to that. So from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., we're doing the prairie chicken viewing. We'll have like a rotation of bringing folks out there on like the 20 or 30 minutes or so. And then after that, we have broader refuge tours. We'll have some discovery stations with some of our partners, and we'll have our tracking truck and our prairie chicken trailer that we load all the prairie chickens up in when we're transporting them to and from our refuge or Goliad from the captive breeding facilities. And then we'll have some of our equipment that we use to actively manage our land. And then at 12, we'll have a very special performance by the Native American dancers. That is really cool that, you know, kind of one of their dances that they do is called the Prairie Chicken Dance. It's based off of the prairie chickens dancing. So, you know, stick around, even if you're, you know, only there for the birds. I would stick around because it's a lot of fun, and we're all rotating who's going to be in the boomer and the blue goose costume. So if nothing else, you can be there to make fun of us.
Still need volunteers?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. I could, yeah. I won't turn down more. Oh, yeah, we have a sign up genius. Yes, we have a sign up genius if you would like to help. And if slots are full, then you can reach out to me. And you know, I could use help really anywhere. It is 1206 APC space NWR Road, Eagle Lake, Texas 77434. You get all that?
How far is it here?
From here, it's about 40 minutes. 40 minutes going west. Yeah. Any other questions?
Stats on your hatch rate versus success rate?
I do not have that filed away in my brain filing cabinet at the moment. That would be Bianca. Help me. I'm phoning a friend.
We had 3 nests last year that we monitored,
Hey.
and the hatch rate.
Could you?
Oh God, okay.
You knew this was coming.
Oh, no.
So they were.
Oh, okay. Pile on people. The question was, how's our hatch rate success with the prairie chickens? And what we know from last year, we had 3 nests that we monitored. Of those 3 nests, I'm pretty sure it was like, so they usually lay around 12 eggs. And with each one, there was about a hatch of an average of like 8 or 9 of the eggs. So it was actually a really good year. And then we go out 2 weeks after that, and then we check to see if they're still alive, the babies. And all 3 of them were still alive. They had chicks still. We don't know how many because we can't see them at that point. And then at 6 weeks, we go out again and we see how many are still alive. And I think 2 of them we were able to find, and they had quite a lot. One of them had at least 1, and one of them had like 6.
One that was hanging out by all the McCartney groves.
Yeah.
That one had about 6 or 7
Yeah.
chicks.
Yeah, we went up there. We were like, oh, surely she's not going to be here. This looks terrible. And she was like, oh, she has 6 babies. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca. I take your question.
Yes. Have a large reserve, but you only have a few. So is there a certain like 1 or 2? How much space does each individual couple or a plant hen? How much space does each one take?
Okay, so how much space does each bird need to survive? That is actively being debated by our lead biologist because it seems as if there is some level of okay, so the figure that we've been using thus far is 50 acres per bird, which is quite a lot. So it seems like that we don't really know exactly how that number came to be. Our lead biologist has a pretty good idea, but we probably have more capacity than we think we do. So our population count at our refuge was 82 birds, there's likely more birds. And there's likely more birds than we think we can carry on our property. We just added a new tract to our Colorado County property. It's about 542 acres. It is not at all good, viable habitat, but at some point when we have funding and when we have people, manpower to restore it, because it has been used for rice farming. At some point when that is restored, that should increase our carrying capacity. I hope that kind of answers the question. Yes.
That 50 acres per female per brood or per bird or?
I think it's very general. It's every bird, 50 acres. Yeah. Yeah.
Because of the low population, and the difficulty with the breeding program, there's a lot of genetic issues that prairie chicken has run into. So can you speak to the interbreeding and how you guys deal with that, the effect it's having on the population? Because it seems like it's growing, but at what point, I don't want to say point of no return, but like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's always kind of in the back of our minds. So the question is, how do we preserve genetic diversity? When only 19 birds started the captive breeding program. So our captive breeding partners do a really good job of pairing birds with each other that are like the most diverse from each other, the least related to each other. So there's one way that we try to preserve the genetic diversity. Another way is some samples have been taken that are now being frozen. I think it's at the San Antonio Zoo. Oh, really? Well, come on, friend, I'm trying to phone you.
It's the eggshells?
I don't know if it's eggshells or if it's blood sample. I thought it was blood samples that are being, yeah. Yeah, so there's some samples, whether it be from eggshells or from blood samples, it might be a mix of both. They're gonna be frozen, and if we need to tap into those genes, we can with our, current technology that's available. So those would be two. We haven't had to. It's not currently like a pressing issue. It probably will be in the foreseeable future, but right now it's not a major point of concern. Another thing we're gonna try out is mixing birds. At least our lead biologist is playing with the idea of mixing birds from different facilities with each other in the acclimation pens to try to encourage them to maybe breed with birds that aren't from where they came from to encourage that genetic diversity. But yeah, it's not currently a pressing issue. At some point it will be though.
With
Yes.
regard to that Colorado County property, that you have to, I'm also a member of the Native Prairie Association of Texas.
Oh, cool.
And I was wondering if you are planning to work with them, because we know that native prairie is much better for your birds than
Yeah.
what you're gonna have.
Yeah.
So I was just curious as to whether there were plans to work with an organization like NPAT to recondition that position.
Yeah, we actually, someone from NPAT reached out to Bianca. Yeah, Marvelin. Yeah, and I'm gonna talk to her, so hopefully we can start that partnership and see where it goes from there. Yeah, because that would,
They've got a lot of volunteers that can come. I mean, they'd love to plant grass.
yeah, I love that. Yeah, we need more grass people. I always like to say recovery takes a village. That's because it does. We just, our refuge as it stands is not enough to recover this species. And for that matter, preserve the Gulf Coast prairie, we need a mix of NGOs, private landowners, private sector, our
That's
master naturalists, a mix of everybody, we, in order to achieve these goals. And that's the theme you'll find across all conservation,
we have one
initiatives.
question.
Okay.
Cindy,
Yeah.
she's asking, what caused the great dying?
Hi, Cindy. The great dying was caused by a few different things. So the biggest would be a bunch of volcanic activity that kicked up a bunch of soot, carbon dioxide into the air, led to a greenhouse greenhouse gas warming effect. And in turn, with that influx of all this carbon dioxide, made for less oxygen to be available. It caused the oceans to become acidic and apoxic, so lacking, or you're right, apoxic, lacking oxygen. So things died. And I think there was probably also acid rain in there too. It was a bad time. It was an incredibly bad time. So it's honestly very cool. You know, life, the famous Jurassic Park quote, life finds a way. Yeah. I hope that answers your question, Cindy. Yes.
What other states had prairie chickens?
So Oklahoma, the panhandle of Panhandle, Texas, Oklahoma, there's lesser prairie chickens, and then as you move like farther in the Midwest, like Minnesota, which I don't know, I don't know if you consider that the Midwest, 'cause it's east, but I don't know. You'll find them in the Dakotas, the greater prairie chickens, and the Attwaters are a subspecies of the graders. I probably should have mentioned that prior. Oops. Kansas, yes, Kansas is the other place as well. Yeah, so they do exist other places. It's just the Attwaters are only indigenous to the Gulf Coast of Texas now. They used to be in Southwest Louisiana. They've since been extirpated for the past 100 years, I think. 1919. That's 100 years. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes. That's a good question. I don't think we've tried that out. Like, I can't. Oh, sorry. The question was if something were to happen to a brood's mother, could you move that brood to a different hen, and would she take them on as her own, like geese do? I know in the captive breeding facilities, they do have one hen raise a bunch of chicks. But I don't think it's like the chicks have hatched it and then they give it to the mom. They are, I don't think the mom knows because they put the eggs under her. So she thinks that they're hers, I think. I can't speak for her. But in the wild, we have not tried that. And I think that the chicks would probably be too hard to find without the mom. But that's a good question. I don't know how it works in the wild. I would assume probably if the hen dies, the whole brood probably dies if they lose mom. But if there is a situation where a hen flushes off her nest and she doesn't return and we know where a nest is, we would take the eggs and we would give those to a captive breeding facility, and then they could incubate them there and then raise them for us. Yes.
Do you have a favorite non-avian dinosaur?
Yes, I do. It's called a Liopleurodon, which is a marine reptile. Oh, wait, non-avian dinosaur. Yeah, non-avian. Yeah, that answers your question. Okay, sorry. Yeah,
What is it
like
called?
Liopleurodon. It's a massive plesiosaur, marine reptile, not a dinosaur, marine reptile. That's a different rabbit hole we could go down. You'd be here for an entire week if you get me going on this subject. Any other
Got
questions?
one, Charlie wants to know, who are those people in the photo on the left?
Oh,
Why do they look like they're freezing?
Stand up.
is that Charlie Winker? Well, Charlie, that guy in the yellow hat's you, my friend. Okay, so I have this thing. So this is Tom Zoll. Tom Zoll. This is Natasha. We have Bert. You have me, Charlie, Liz, Mary, Jody, Bianca, Nancy,
And Gene behind the camera.
and Jean. Yes, but our paparazzi. Any other questions? Yes.
Distinctions between the Goliad property and the main reserve.
That's a really good question. Huge distinction in that, sorry, not very good at this. The question was, what's the distinction between the Attwater Prairie Chicken National Wildlife Refuge and the Goliad Prairie? Goliad Prairie is a conglomerate of private landowners that have conservation easements with the Nature Conservancy. And they do cattle grazing, so it works out. The partnership that they have to have cattle grazers moving their cattle around, grazing, because that historically would have been something prairie chickens relied on from bison, and now the cattle, they act as the bison would have historically. So private land in Goliad. It's important to note that they have over 50,000 acres, so about 5 times our capacity. So we would assume, and we're pretty sure that the birds, they have a higher population there, and the habitat there is a little bit nicer than what we have. They have more space. And then whereas us, we have, with that new tract that we added, we have over 11,000 acres now in total that belong to us, but we have our properties in 2 different counties. So we have 1,000 or about 1,500, 2,000 in Austin County, and then we have the rest in Colorado County, and they are not contiguous. And then even within our property, we have habitat that is not viable to prairie chickens. Although, like we were talking about, I mean, we found a hen with like 6 or 7 chicks in an area where it was just covered in McCartney Rose mounds. So the birds are going to do what they're going to do. I don't know. They surprise us. We think that they're going to follow suit with these little boxes that we've created for them. And, yet they're like people and they do their own thing. That's not always in their best interest. What's that?
Get them for breakfast.
Yeah,
Same.
yeah. Any other questions?
We got a long
Yeah.
one from, it'd be easier for me just to
Okay.
read it and give it, yeah. So this is from David. Says a recent study published in the journal Science shows a marked decline of USA bird population, most significantly in areas with intense agriculture. Do you know anything about the study? And if so, can you speak a little bit about it?
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to read that because I am dyslexic. How do I,
Let me try to make it bigger for you.
thank you.
Yeah.
It's right there. Reasons I hate women.
Second. So you didn't hear them, make it bigger. Can you read it now?
Yeah, thank you. I have not personally seen this study. I would be interested to read it though. but it seems that the finding is that there's an overall decline of birds across the United States. Specifically or most significantly in areas that are heavily, that are intensive agriculture. I think that makes sense. Because as we continue to develop in these birds' habitats, they are naturally going to lose places to be. So I'm not familiar with the particular study, but just based off of what I think its findings are, I think that makes sense. Yes.
The name Attwater Prairie chicken come from? The name of the bird, the place it is, how's that fit?
The question is, where does the name Attwater Prairie chicken come from? And the answer to that is Attwater was a guy. I think he was from England and he came to the United States. And at some point he landed in Texas and he was a hunter. He was a naturalist. And he, I don't think he discovered the species. I think that he, huh? Oh, Jody knows.
Someone else actually found the bird and they named him after their friend, Henry Philemon Attwater.
Okay, there we go. A guy, a guy who was friends with Attwater named it after his friend Attwater. Attwater didn't discover it. It was Attwater's friend that discovered the bird that wanted to pay tribute to his friend. Any other questions? Yes.
You mentioned that the habitat is not necessarily ideal at the Attwater Prairie wildlife.
Not all of it.
Not all. That's the thing. Were the birds already there when they created the refuge, or did they bring?
Yes. Yeah, the birds were already there. And so the really cool part about our refuge is that it was built on a lot of passion and a lot of stewardship. So some of the big private landowners there, they donated their land at a fraction of the cost. They could have made big bucks from selling it to some sort of development or something like that, or, to be used as agriculture, but they grew up with this prairie in their backyards and they really loved the Attwater's prairie chickens. So they wanted to see that habitat and those birds be protected. So it started out as like a preserve. The first game warden we had was Thomas Waddell. He's responsible for a lot of the collection you will see in our visitor center. And that's only half of what he got. The other half is in like a little museum in Eagle Lake. And that was established in 1967. And then the bird was actually recognized to be endangered much before the Endangered Species Act. And then the refuge acquired the land from the World Wildlife Fund in 1972, the same year that Endangered Species Act was enacted. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for letting me nerd out with you guys tonight.